Hi, my name is Ashlyn, and I apologize about the quality of this video. I'm in my recliner, and this is on my iPhone. I'm not a vlogger or a videographer, so the quality is not going to be that great. But I have been feeling really led to share my testimony and my journey going through anxiety and depression. So I was saved at 7, and I was baptized at 8. I was saved in the Baptist church. I am from Alabama, so Deep South Baptist. And I knew that I was changed when I was saved. I knew I was filled with the Holy Spirit. And it's hard to explain the feeling unless you are saved. I don't know how to explain it. But I would not have a testimony to share until I was 17. So when I was growing up, I primarily lived with my biological mother and my stepfather and my half-brother. And then every other weekend, every other Wednesday, the whole month of July, except for 2 weekends in July, I would be at my biological father and stepmother's house. While I was at their house, I would also be at my paternal grandmother's house a lot because they lived right next to each other. And it was a very difficult childhood. I was never physically abused or anything. There was never any money problems. We were middle class, upper middle class. So as far as having everything a child could want, I pretty much did. The reason I had such a, I don't want to say I have a bad childhood, but I have blocked out most of my childhood because of the mental and emotional abuse that I dealt with at my biological father's, at the hands of him, my stepmother, and my paternal grandmother. I over the summer, I could feel things stirring inside of me, like I was something was coming, something was building. I was getting stronger, if you will. And I started to have more of a voice over there and have more of the teenage attitude, I guess is what you would call it. And it all kind of built up to, it was in July, and it was one of the weekends I was at my mother's house, my biological mother's, and it was a Sunday, and I was supposed to go back to my biological father's house. So it was, I did not want to go. I felt very strongly that I didn't want to go. But legally, my mother had to take me because that was in the divorce. She could get arrested if she didn't take me. So we had been praying about it because I didn't want to go. I was miserable when I was over there. It was awful. And it was to the very last minute where she was like, if you're going, we need to leave now. If you're not going, we need to call. And so I'm 31 now. This was when I was 17. So that tells you how long it's been. And this is May 2020, just to give you a time or a date reference. So I remember getting the house phone, and I was praying about what I was going to say, because I didn't know what I was going to say. And my fingers started dialing his number. But I was not dialing his number. It was not me physically dialing it. It was, but it wasn't. There was this power that I can't even explain that was going, I just was pulsating through me, this unbelievable power. And my brain, while I was dialing, my brain was going, what are you doing? What are you doing? I can't believe you're doing this. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And my biological father answered the phone. He said hello or hi, I can't even remember. And I said, I can't remember if I said, Daddy, I'm not coming, or just I'm not coming. And then he started cussing me out, and I handed the phone to my mom. And when I said those words, again, the feeling that I had, it's making me emotional. I have never felt that before. And I felt freedom. I felt like a weight had been lifted off me. I was just having all these feelings and all these emotions all at once. And once she got off the phone with him, we called the sheriff's department and went ahead and made a report just in case he decided to have her arrested. If he had her arrested, I would have gone to his house. I would have not let my mom go to jail, if at all possible. Because I have had a family member bring that up to me when this happened, or after this happened, that me doing this could have caused my mom to go to jail. And I would not let my mom go to jail, if at all possible. I would have gone back to his house. That started my journey, realizing that what I went through as a child had great effect on me. And I have horrible anxiety, debilitating anxiety. And I started let me start that over. So I did not have the intention to sever my relationship with my biological father, my stepmother, or my paternal grandmother. I loved them. I did. I loved them. I just wanted to get their attention of what I was going through, that I am not a 4-year-old little girl anymore. I wasn't a grown-up. I was 17. I wasn't an adult, but in a 17-year-old's mind, I was an adult. That's what you know everything. You think, everything is about you. You know everything in the world. And I just wanted to get their attention because I had not ever said anything to them before, anything like this. The only thing that had happened where I kind of showed that I was tired of the bullcrap was my biological father had said something ugly about my mother in front of me, and I told him that she was my mother. I said something about, that is my mother. And he apologized to me. He said, yep, that is your mother. I understand. So then, this happened, and there was some correspondence, never with him. I never spoke to him again. but there was some correspondence with my stepmother and my grandmother. And I decided, part of some of the abuse that happened, and I have blocked out a lot of things, and things will pop up randomly. Like, I'll remember random things that happened. But some of the most significant that I remember was my stepmom questioned my salvation because she was in a Pentecostal church. So, they believe that you have to speak in tongues to receive the Holy Spirit. And I think also she questioned because I was so young. And at the time in my walk with Christ, I was still very young, so I didn't exactly know how to explain to her that I knew I was saved. So she was very intimidating from that aspect. She also was just a very mean person. She's not nice. She was just a very mean bully. And she told, like, for instance, she told me that I was not very pretty, and that to get boys to like me, I would need to wear makeup and do my hair. And I was, I think, 13 or 14 at the time. So I don't think I had worn makeup yet, maybe lip gloss. My hair was always in a ponytail. I mean, I was a kid. I didn't care about that kind of thing yet. She told me that my biological mother had had all these abortions, and just different things like that. She had called me a liar. She was just not a nice person. My biological father absolutely hated my mother. Hated her with every fiber of his being. They were not married for very long. They got married in 88, April of 88, had me in February of 89, and my mom decided to leave him on my first birthday. So they were not married for very long, but he supposedly loved her. So when she left, I guess it just broke him, and he just hated her. Honestly, I don't know. I know he was her first love. They had friends in common, and he, I guess, was just hurt, and he hated her. But she also went through the same abuse that I did. Not exactly the same, because obviously my stepmother was not there. But so when I would be at my mother's house, that's where I primarily lived. She and my stepdad raised me and my younger brother. Basic courtesy things like yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. We had chores we had to do. You had to make your bed, you had to fold laundry, just basic things that one would teach their child to do so they could be a successful human being and have manners. But anything that my mother taught me to do, my biological father told me not to do at his house. I would get in trouble if I said yes sir to him, or if I said yes ma'am to my stepmom or my grandmother or my aunt, whoever. I would get in trouble by him. I would get in trouble if I made my bed. I got in trouble one time for folding a load of towels. My stepmom had a hysterectomy and had a tough time recovering from that, because on their way home from the hospital from having the hysterectomy, they got in a car wreck. It wasn't a serious car wreck, but she had just had surgery. So I was folding the towels that he had brought in and set in front of the couch where she would fold stuff. And I folded the towels because she was in the bed recovering from major surgery. And I got in trouble for folding those towels, and I had to unfold them and go to my room. I wasn't allowed to help with any housework, doing dishes, sweeping, mopping, what have you. I wasn't allowed to help her cook. Just basic things that you would do with your child. I was not allowed to do at his house. But at my mother's house, I was. So, every other weekend and every other Wednesday, I was struggling. And after I left from over there, my mom and I have had a lot of deep conversations about what went on over there. And she would tell me, she said, I would have to deprogram you when you would come home because you would be different when you came home. I would have to it would take a few days. And she said, I would call it, I'd have to deprogram you. And then by the time you were back to your normal self, normal Ashlyn, it was time for you to go back over there. When I was over there, nothing from my mother's house was allowed to come into his house. So their laundry room was in their garage. So I would have to go in the laundry room. He would leave me a change of clothes there. I would have to change clothes. And anything I brought with me would have to stay in the laundry room. It wasn't allowed to come to into his house. That changed when I became a teenager and started my ladies' days, as I called it, because I refused to use my stepmom's stuff, because to me, I'm not using a woman that's almost 40. I'm not using the same stuff that she's going to use because, every woman is different when it comes to that kind of thing. And she actually didn't like the fact that, well, I'm not even going to talk about that. That's ladies' day stuff. It's not. Anyway, so it was things like that. So it was like a constant, constant turmoil, I guess is what I'm looking for. My grandmother told me on several occasions that my step-parents' families were not my real family, that I should not love them like I love my blood family. And there were other things that she told me. She was not a nice person either. And so that things were happening every weekend from the moment I was, 1 or 2 till the time I was 17. I was dealing with this every other weekend, every other Wednesday, the month of July. So it was building and building and building and building. And I finally had enough. So I made the phone call, and I did feel a lot better after I made the phone call. Like I said, it was like, a weight was lifted off of me. I even remember the first time that I saw my aunt hit my biological father's sister, and my cousins, that they were like, this is the real you. We've never known the real you. Because they had not had they had to sever their relationship for other reasons with my grandmother and my father. So I was finally becoming the real me, but also what was coming was anxiety, because all of that was building and building and building and building and building. So now I was free from that, but I have always, now that I know what anxiety is, I had always been suffering from that, but I didn't realize it. So I started seeing a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, a psychologist. I get those mixed up. And my family doctor did prescribe me some Xanax, but I do not like taking that. I try to not take it. I try to, if I feel my anxiety building and I feel, a panic attack coming, I have learned ways to cope. So I've learned to try to not take that, because I do have drug addicts in my family, and I do not want to get dependent upon that to bring me out of something. I will take it if I have to. I keep it on me, just in case. So when I started seeing my, I call her my therapist, a lot of things came up, and she was trying to help me work through my anxiety, and my anxiety had gotten to the point where I would get up in the morning. I had moved out by this point. I had my own place. I would get up and go to work and come home. And that's all I did. The only time I left my house was to go to work, or, on the weekends, go to my parents. But when I was at work, it would drain me physically. I would be exhausted. And it was my anxiety, because I was becoming almost like a hermit. I did not want to leave my safe place. And that also led to depression. And I talked to I continued talking to my therapist, but I also talked to my medical doctor. And she did prescribe me Lexapro, so I take that daily. And it has greatly helped. And that, along with the therapy and along with what I have found, like how to cope, has helped me greatly in my struggle with anxiety. I still have anxiety, but it's not to the level where it holds me back anymore. If I want to leave and go to the mall, well, obviously not now because of COVID, but before this, when I was in the worst states of my anxiety, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't do anything. I would just go to work. That's all I did. I didn't even want to go to work. The only reason I went to work is because I had bills I had to pay. I had a house. My coping that I have found that has helped me personally is, one, my emotional support animal. She was in my lap, but she's over in her crate now. She knows when I'm anxious, and she will actually come lay on top of me, and I take her places. I've taken her to Walmart and Target before when I've had a bad day, because I still have bad days every now and then, and I'll take her with me, and she is a great comfort. And I don't know what it is about her, but she and I have a connection that I've never had with another dog. And I was in the room when she was born. I actually helped her come into this world. So I don't know if that's part of it or not, but she helps me greatly. But the thing that helps me the most is praise and worship music. So I have a playlist on my phone. It's on YouTube, and it's my praise and worship. And when I'm feeling like I'm having a moment, because I'll just be having a normal day, and then all of a sudden, hey, anxiety's here. And I'll turn on my praise and worship music, and I'm fine. I keep it on in the car. That's all I listen to in the car, is praise and worship. And prayer. I am a strong believer in prayer. Prayer is power. And so those 3 things have helped me. And I can't say I'll ever be cured of anxiety, but I know now how to cope with it and how to not let it have power over me. That I have the tools. I have been equipped with the tools and the armor that I need to conquer this. And my depression has been greatly, I did have a few days during this COVID-19 where I was struggling really bad, did not, and I'm teleworking right now, so I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to be in the bed. But I made myself get up and get on the computer and work, because your girl has to make some money. I'm in my own place. And another thing that helped me through my journey also is I actually sold my home that I was in. I purchased a house when I was 21, and I believe I was 24 or 25 when I sold it. And I moved back in with my parents. I had a change in jobs, and I had to stop school for a little while. That's how bad my anxiety got. And it was affecting every single aspect of my life. So I had to just pause and take a minute. And I moved back home with my parents. And there I was able to be in my old room. And I don't know, what your situation is, but my room, my childhood room at my parents' house is part of it comforts me. So being in that environment helped in my healing process of learning to cope with my anxiety. And I still to this day do not, I have not seen or spoken to my biological father. I did see a picture of him one time on Facebook accidentally. I am Facebook friends with a cousin of mine, that she's my stepmother's niece, and I did see a picture of my biological that she had posted. I believe it was her wedding, and I had no emotion when I saw that picture. I actually took the picture and showed my mom, and I was like, look who I just saw. And I saw my paternal grandmother one time at a Walmart. That's actually a funny story, but I won't get into that now. She never saw me. I ran and hid. And I haven't seen my stepmother at all. There was some correspondence with her through email, but that stopped. And I don't hate them. As a Christian, we're taught not to hate. I do not hate them, but I don't love them. I have no emotion there. He's just simply my biological father. That's what I call him. And my stepmother and my paternal grandmother. And when I was 19, I actually legally changed my name to be my stepdad's last name, because my stepdad is my father. I consider him my earthly father. I consider him the one who raised me, who he and my mother together raised their children to be respectful children who have grown up to be pretty awesome adults. So, you know, and now they've adopted. So I have a little brother who's 9, and my life's pretty good now. I still struggle, but like I said, I have my coping. You know, I'm able to I'm able now to figure out how to deal with my anxiety. I know what I need to do. And another thing, if you suffer from anxiety, I had to talk to my therapist a few times about this, because I would think I was feeling anxious, but I was actually excited. I was excited about something. But I automatically associated that with, why am I so anxious? You know, why? I'm graduating from college. Why am I anxious about that? This is something that's great. I'm going to Disney World. Why am I anxious about this? And then she explained to me, no, you're excited. You're excited for those things, but you're trying to rewire your brain. And so you would automatically go to, you know, anxiety. So that's one thing I am still working towards. Like, I'll have what I think is anxiety, and I'll be like, wait a second, is this something I'm anxious about, really anxious about, or is this excitement that I think is anxiety? So, I just, strongly encourage you, if you're dealing with anxiety, you need to find somebody to talk to, whether it's, somebody at church, a friend, a relative. Find somebody to talk to, because they may be going through the same thing, and find a professional, like a professional therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist. But you need to have an outlet, and you need to have help, because you don't want to cope. You don't want to do this by yourself. So yeah, that's my story. I hope I didn't ramble on too long. If I did, I'm sorry. And have a good one.